does it look like this is a guy who's comfortable in a
Yeah,
scheme?
I think that there's we've talked about it in regards to a number of different players.
Mhm.
There's there's a pathway for everybody to to be a big leaguer, and there's stages that every player has to go through, whether it's confidence, whether it's comfort, whether it's health, whatever challenges they have to handle. But with Murph, we've seen growth on the defensive side. We've seen just I think confidence overall. Even though he's a confident guy, I think he's more confident in his total game. There's the bat plays. When when you see what you saw yesterday, his last at bat. The big homer against a guy with a big fastball. He can hit a fastball. So again, the overall game has improved, which I think is a tribute to Murph.
I guess also a guy who was up and down a bit last year, wasn't in the playoffs, but do you see a guy with a skill set to be a regular catcher in the major leagues?
Well, I think he can be durable. I think he possesses on the defensive side the things that can line up to be an everyday catcher. Because I think he's built that way physically and mentally. I think that he comes to the park, fresh and with a clear thinker, and again physically can do it. Again, I think like any position, I think there's got to be a performance component, and we wouldn't find that out until we play. But I think everything lines up for him to be that type of in your view, an everyday catcher. Whatever, I think there's probably different
Right, different
definitions
degrees.
of that depending on teams and managers or front offices.
Um, so Wade Davis steps in first time today, in the spring training game. But when you see a guy like that that's kind of been around and knows how to get ready for a
Right.
season, how much can that help other guys learn how to get themselves ready? I know there are things you guys
Well,
put, but
yeah, I think it's with a veteran pitcher, especially a veteran reliever who has been through this before with multiple spring trainings to prepare for a season. Those guys pretty much know what they need as far as appearances, days in between appearances, when to, go every other day, when to have the back-to-back outing, when to go an inning plus. I mean, they sort of have these things mapped out uh, because of their experience, in previous spring trainings to get ready. Now, other players, hopefully will get in that position because that means that they've spent multiple spring trainings. They've had great years of success as big league players, and they get the opportunity to uh, get a schedule together with the coaches and the manager about their workload. But I think what a young pitcher can see is how Wade Davis's bullpens are February 13th, and how they progress up until middle of March, late March. And I think there is a learning curve for young players how to manage that effort level of throwing, the intensity of throwing through the early part of spring training, the first week, 10 days, and even prior to that, like in January, where you don't put yourself at risk because you're throwing too hard too early and trying to do too much too early. And that is always the pitfall of a lot of young pitchers.
and just one other thing on him, a lot of guys when they go to the bullpen and move back toward the end of the game, they kind of get rid of pitches and become maybe one or two pitch pitchers. He even pitches he doesn't throw a lot, whether it's a two seamer, he may throw that some. the changeup. It seems that he maintained his pitch mix. Is that something
Yeah.
that
Well, I think
you would
that's his.
advise or not advise?
Well, with him, every pitcher is unique in what they do to get their outs, but he comes from a starter background, and he was that type of starter. Early in his career with the Rays, where he had a 4-pitch mix of pitches, and for me they're all quality. So his biggest, I think, challenge was when he moved to the bullpen and pitched in short spurts, pitched an inning. Being able to really identify, the pitches that might work to a certain hitter. Then you maybe shift, the next hitter might be, a different pitch or two. But, his challenge is that he's had to maintain the quality of each pitch, even though he doesn't really, get the reps as a starter, right? If you're pitching 200 innings as a starter and you're throwing 100 pitches a game, you're throwing, let's say 30 starts, 100, but you're throwing 3,000 pitches. As a reliever, you're not throwing that many, right? So, he's had to maintain the quality of his mix, at the expense of not being able to, have a lot of repetitions. But he's been able to do it. He's got good feel. He's in tune with his delivery. He's in tune with his mechanics. He's in tune with his arm slot. He's got good feel, and that was based on his past as a starting pitcher.
The thing about interesting about it is there's a handful of games in what looks like statistically a struggling season. Take out those handful of games, he was pretty dominating most of the year.
I think you look. The only thing that when I look at this, his traditional stats, the walks were a little bit alarming for me, and that's something we talked about, as the season went on, and that's something that he would like to bring down. But the strikeouts are fine, the hits, innings pitched, all those critical markers for me are in place, but the walks were a little high, and he's always had a little bit of a walk in his game statistically, but